Former President Trump officially launching his third campaign for the White House just 1 week after the midterm elections and 2 years before the election itself. Trump made the announcement last night from Mar-a-Lago, although it seemed very clear he was going to run again. This leaves questions about whether the Republican Party believes Trump can win the election in 2024 after losing in 2020. Let's bring in former U.S. Congressman Ric Keller to help break all of this down for us. We appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Glad to be here.
So really, is this much of a surprise?
Well, it's unusual in terms of precedent. It's only happened once in our country's history. But with respect to President Trump, not much of a surprise. He's been telegraphing this for a week now.
For sure. And of course, saying it's going to be some kind of huge surprise announcement, but not really much of a surprise. At this point, does Trump have what it takes to get the nomination from his party and from the voters?
Well, what he had to say, three things I think resonated. Number one, he's officially running and he wants to make America great. And that MAGA core, I mean, you're looking at 30 or 35% of the Republican Party that's going to support him no matter what. So that's a strong core in terms of having what it takes. The more people that run, the better for him. Number two, he had a pretty good message about peace through strength and internationally and projected an aura of strength. And then domestically, his main focus was on energy independence and doing something about the gas prices. And so he played to his strengths. There's strengths that have worked before. We'll see what the momentum is like a couple years from now. But he stayed within the strike zone and stayed calm and was on the issues.
One thing we discussed is why do this 2 years in advance?
It is a little unconventional to announce 2 years in advance, but why he did it, he had to stop the snowballing effect of Governor Ron DeSantis. For example, if you looked at the Real Clear Politics polls average, Trump is killing DeSantis. It's 52-20, and then Pence is at 7. However, since the election, and DeSantis won this big victory by 20 points, there have been polls taken in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Texas, with DeSantis leading in all three. Now, that's a big deal because, of course, Iowa and New Hampshire are the first two primaries, and Texas is the largest red state. And so Trump couldn't just sit back and allow DeSantis to take in all of the good high-dollar fundraisers and have a free walk there. When Trump is involved, it kind of takes the air out of the room. He definitely makes himself the focus. And so I think he felt he had to get in at this point.
What about those jabs that Trump's been taking at DeSantis over the last week, 2 weeks? What does that say about his campaign and his thoughts?
If I was Governor DeSantis, I would take that as the ultimate compliment. That means what Trump is subcommunicating is I see him as a serious challenger. And so DeSantis hasn't taken the bait. He hasn't had a bunch of reactionary things back. But I'm not super surprised. President Trump has his own style and his own authentic way of talking. But I think it would probably be a mistake to get in a back and forth under those circumstances.
What do you think a Biden-Trump rematch would look like in 2024?
I think it'd look like a bunch of old guys running. At the end of a second term, Biden would be 86 and Trump would be 82. Most 86 and 82-year-olds are playing shuffleboard in the villages. They're not running the world. And so I think right now it'd probably be an even toss-up in terms of getting there. But that's a big job to have when you're that old. I mean, it's a lot of pressure to have when you're 45 or 55. So I'm not 100% convinced we're going to see Biden run again. I don't know if he has made the decision personally, but that's what I see is a couple old guys, and the benefit of us as voters, we're not going to have to guess how they were, because we would have had a Biden presidency, we would have had a Trump presidency, and I imagine that the Republicans are going to stick with Trump, the Democrats are going to stick with Biden, and the momentum and the outcome will be determined on where the independents are in that slice of time.
I agree with you. I hope to be playing shuffleboard when I reach that age. So now the question here is, who would be the possible opponents for Trump? We know Ron DeSantis, possibly. Anyone else that comes to mind?
So you have Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, Ted Cruz. That's off potentially Rick Scott, who's flirted with it. That's 6 or 7 off the top of my head, but the more that get in, the better, because if Trump has 35% of the vote and you have a multi-candidate primary, then he's the winner. And so probably the worst thing that could happen for Trump would be for people to sit back and say, well, it's a suicide mission. I'm not going to do this race and defer to DeSantis. I don't imagine that Pence is going to drop out, though. So I think it comes down to those 3 as the main candidates, with the other candidates I mentioned being more the second-tier candidates. And as is in politics, there may be somebody that comes out of the woodwork, some unknown governor in some little-known state who's a rock star and impresses everybody. So right now, that's the field, but it could change.
Any possible candidates there in the Democratic Party that could rise above Biden and say, let me try this?
No, nobody has announced yet. I think that would not play well to the extent there's behind-the-scenes discussions. I'm not quite sure who they're thinking about, but nobody publicly has been talked about.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Ric Keller, former U.S. Congressman. Anything else that you want to add before we let you go?
No, I thank you for having me. And if anything, it's going to be very interesting the next 2 years.
Yeah, we'll probably have you on just a few more times in the next 2 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you.